Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Come Back Stronger, where we are all about comeback stories. My name is Jimmy Fasig. I'm a personal injury lawyer with Fasig Brooks Law Offices, and I'm here today with my law partner, Carrie Roan. Usually I'm with my other law partner, Dana Brooks, but Dana's out of town, so Carrie, you're usually on the other side of the camera talking to the guests, and so today I'm just super excited to have you here, and I have a question for you before we get started.
All right, good to go. I'm super excited to be here, so hit me with your questions.
So Carrie, you have a lot of cases, you carry a big caseload, and you have a lot of clients. All your clients love you. You stay in contact with your clients all the time. Plus, you do the show. Plus, you're raising children. Here's my question. How do you do it?
Oh my God, that's such a good question. I think the answer to that is I'm doing what every other woman I know is doing. Every single woman in my life is balancing family and work and parents and kids and travel and so much stuff. We have so many balls in the air, and you just put one foot in front of the other, and you just stay busy, and you just stay organized and manage your time well and love life and love what you're doing.
Well, I can't even tell you how impressed I am with you.
Thanks, Jimmy.
And so what I want to talk about today, though, is comeback stories. And so what we're usually trying to bring out is good stories that people can see people have overcome obstacles and come back stronger. What do you think is the main element to every good comeback story? If you're going to put your finger on it, what do you think is the main thing to look for?
Oh man, that's a great question. I think it's perseverance. I think I have, this show enriches my life so much because of the people that I get to meet and interview. And they become my friends, and I tell my family about them. And the one main thread that carries through every story is perseverance. I am in awe of people like Maggie Cook, who have this incredible perseverance that they find within themselves. They don't go anywhere outside to find it. They just dig deep for the strength.
It's digging deep for that inner strength.
Yes, it's so inspirational. It really is.
I thought of a quote the other day. I've heard it before. If it's up to be, if it's going to be, or if it's meant to be, it's up to me.
I love that.
And it's getting that inner strength and finding that inner strength. A lot of people find it through I've noticed a couple things. A lot of people find it through an act of kindness from somebody else. And that just kind of triggers them to say, this is a sign for me to come back stronger.
That's right.
And then a lot of people get that inner strength from their faith. A lot of people get their inner strength by just saying, I have had enough. They reach that point, and they're like, I'm done with this. I am no longer going to suffer like I've been suffering, so I'm going to take the initiative and change what I have to do to come back stronger.
Or you know where they get it? They get it from their support network, from their family, their friends, and women especially get it from other women that we lean on.
Well, we are about to embark on another awesome comeback story, but before that, we are going to head to a commercial break. We're giving you a game plan on how you can take back control of your life to not just get back to where you were before you started, but also to come back stronger. This is a tragedy in your life, it's an accident, or it's a loss that you never expected to suffer. But every tragedy carries with it the seed of an equal opportunity. And so our job is to guide our clients to take advantage of that opportunity. And that is the most fulfilling thing that I do in my job. When I give my client that settlement check at the end of the day, if they can walk out of there feeling like they are the hero of their own story and they're proud of themselves because they did what I asked them to do, they took my guidance and they ended up with seeing that light at the end of the tunnel and actually reaching that light, that's what it's all about. Welcome back to Come Back Stronger, where we're all about comeback stories. We are about to hear a story from a young man that has suffered a terrible loss, but has come back stronger. I can't wait for you to hear this. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Tell us your name and tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Karl Schultenhover. I live here in Jacksonville, Florida, and I'm married with 2 kids, one's 6 and one almost 4.
So you've got your hands full.
I do. I do.
Well, we have asked you to come here to be with us today because you have an incredible comeback story. So why don't you tell us what happened, and then we'll get into it all.
Yeah, sure. So I was 15 years old. was in a very bad car crash. It was, we were driving to a restaurant as a part of a campus life, which is a Sunday school essentially for high school kids. And we had my best friend sitting in the back left seat. I was sitting in the front or the middle back seat, and another of my friends sitting in the back right. The driver was my best friend's older brother, and then front passenger was his best friend.
It's a lot of friends in there.
Yes. So we end up stopping to get Adam, which is the driver's haircut. Line was too long, so we got back in the car, and when everyone did, Tyler and myself switched seats. So I was now sitting in the back right, and Tyler was now sitting in the middle. And we end up hitting an asphalt truck in the middle of an interstate during a road construction. Adam, the driver, passed away, and so did Tyler, the kid I switched seats with. And was in the hospital for about a month and dealing with recovery.
Yeah. What was the hardest part about going through all that?
Definitely the emotional aspect. Physical obviously had its obstacles, but emotional still is there with me. And immediately after was obviously the most intense and powerful, and dealt a lot with survivor's guilt and kind of why, like understanding why it happened.
Yeah.
And just dealing with it should have been me versus Tyler.
So you were 15 years old when this happened, right? How did you start to process that?
Didn't process it very well, as you could imagine a 15-year-old kid doing so with something like that. I again watched my friend's funeral on a VHS tape. All my classmates were able to grieve with each other and help each other through the process. I really didn't get that, unfortunately. Obviously, my parents, my siblings helped me. But it's different having friends and not being able to have that conversation and help each other. It was I dealt with again a lot of survivor's guilt. So, and why me? How was this God's plan? Just it should have been me instead of Tyler, as far as if someone had to pass away.
Yeah.
So
I know now you're doing well.
Yes.
You're
yes.
Married, 2 kids, got a good job. Tell us about the process that you went through to get to where you are today.
Initially, it was bumpy. I struggled again, like I said, with survivor's guilt. But over time, I kind of took the whole scenario in different strides or different vantage points that's really helped me. My senior year, I wrote a paper on who everyone was, what happened, and then my kind of journey after, recovering in the hospital and dealing with the emotional everything that came with that. And the biggest thing that helped me was the adding better things in my life. So adding good to my life to outweigh, obviously, the car accident.
You're never going to forget the car accident.
Yeah, it's always going to be a part of me, but it doesn't define me anymore. It happened.
Yeah. So earlier we were talking, and you had told me about how your sister-in-law had a similar experience.
Yes.
How were you able to help her because of what you'd been through?
Again, when she was in her own car accident, dynamic was a little different. But when I got to the hospital, we just hugged, and we didn't have to say anything. And I knew what she was going to be going through to some extent, and it was going to be tough. And the big thing was, whenever you're ready to talk, I'm here for you, and there's no judgment, and just here to listen, offer any kind of advice that I went through that could possibly help. So
because she had a passenger that passed away too, right?
Correct.
Okay. So what advice do you have for kids, teenagers who are dealing with a loss like this, or maybe parents who have children that are trying to deal with something like this?
I mean, with kids, it's hard to kind of wrap your head around the gravity of the scenario. A lot of times you can't think past the week as far as, this is my whole world. It's going to be rough, but add more stuff to your life that's good. So whatever it is that makes you whole or enjoy, use that as fuel for your life. Just keep adding positive stuff.
That is awesome. So, add the good so then it outweighs the bad.
And then for parents, I mean, I have kids now, and heaven forbid something like that happened to them. It's you would hate to, as a parent, obviously my kids are significantly younger, but that's tough. I mean, just be there for them and have a conversation. Let them be willing to talk to you. And everyone's different, so that's the $1 million question, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Wow, he was 15 years old. Yeah. What a young age to have such a hard lesson. Carrie, what is the biggest takeaway you had from Karl's story?
I mean, that one hits me particularly hard because I have a 15-year-old son, so I was I was tearing up the whole time during that. But what my big takeaway is that you can live with something so terrible. You can survive it, and the way that you overcome it, what his comeback is really piling on the good to outweigh the bad.
Focusing on the good.
Yeah.
Trying to focus on the good. Yes.
Add the good. Look for the good things to add. And I love that he said that. What
I got out of it, the biggest thing I got out of it is when he said use it as fuel to do good. And so that to me is a big deal, is the pain that we have to use that as the fuel to develop your mission in life. So anyway, this is really exciting. We're about to break and go to another commercial and come back with another comeback story.
When you come into my firm, you see a lot of faces that look like yours. You see a lot of people that had the same problem before they got to work. You know, a lot of people who left kids with mismatched shoes and a lunch bag, you screaming, just because you had an appointment you had to make. We get you. We get you.
You have to go to a lawyer that will understand your story as a woman. Because women have different stories than men do, and that's just a fact of life. And if you're a woman that's been injured, either through a slip and fall or a trip and fall in an auto accident, you have to go to a lawyer that's going to understand what your daily existence was like before, what it's like now, what the injury means to your entire family, and what you need to do to come back and be where you were before, and even come back and be stronger than where you were before. They just need to have the courage to pick up the phone, because we are going to take the burden of this accident or you being hurt off of your shoulders. We're going to put it on our shoulders. Right. So you don't have to worry about it. Exactly. You can worry about everything else in your life, but not this accident. We're going to worry about that for you.
Welcome back to Come Back Stronger, where we are all about comeback stories. And we just heard a story of Karl, which was it was a tragedy, but he's come back stronger from it. And we are about to come back right now with another comeback story.
Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Tell us your name and what you do.
My name is Crystal Turner, and I am the founder and executive director of A Hand Up to Success nonprofit organization.
What is A Hand Up to Success?
A Hand Up to Success is a nonprofit organization that started in 2016, where we support mothers of families who have lost children to gun violence.
And so you have founded this organization. Please share with us what your history is and how this organization came to be.
Sure. The organization came into existence, unfortunately, after the untimely murder and death of two of my adult children, April 1st, 2015. I lost my daughter, Janaea Harvison, and my son, Donnell McDonald, unfortunately, to the hands of my daughter's estranged husband. And they were shot and killed on that day.
And that's so hard and so difficult. Tell tell us a little bit more about that day and how you were able to deal with what had happened.
Of all days, April 1st. Started out just like any other normal work day for my family and I. My daughter ran a successful 24-hour daycare center and was able to grow that to 5 centers and a training center as well. So that morning we were actually in the training center preparing to become first aid and CPR trainers that day. And we took our lunch break at 11:30. My oldest daughter, Tierney, and I actually left the facility to go down to the daycare to check on staff, and I needed to take care of some other things. And we were also picking up lunch for my other 2 children as well that day. And finished what we needed to do at the daycare center and actually pulled up to a fast food restaurant on the same street and was preparing to pick up lunch, and my phone rang. And I recognized the name on the phone, and I answered, and the young lady greeted me with tears and screams, stating that my daughter Janaea and my son Donnell had just been murdered by my former son-in-law. Needless to say, it was a moment in time that life just stopped. My daughter and I drove immediately back to the facility where we were greeted by police. The police were able to be there literally within minutes of the first shot being heard, and were greeted by the yellow tape, just like a normal crime scene that unfortunately we see way too often on the news every day. And as a result of that, my family was now without 2 of our family members.
Yeah. So how do you go on, as a mom? I just can't fathom it. How are you able to get up the next morning and move forward in your life?
That was probably the biggest thing. Was having to accept that, unfortunately, even though my family and I were experiencing what we were experiencing, the reality is life does move on. The world does not stop because we are experiencing something that is so tragic. My reason to get up every day was my 2 grandchildren. As a result of my son and daughter being murdered, there were actually 3 grandchildren left behind. My son left at that time, a 23-month-old son. My daughter left behind at that time a 23-month-old daughter and a 5-year-old son, whom my husband and I are now raising. And they became the reason to get up and breathe every day, to get up and get dressed and move about the day, because there were 2 small children who were now depending on me because they were without parents.
And so this happened in 2015.
Yes.
In 2016, you started your foundation.
Yes, ma'am.
How did you come to that decision to start the foundation?
The ideal came from remembering that all of our lives, there's always been someone in our lives who supported us to allow my family and I to get to the place where we had a family-ran business. And even in the business, the children and the families that we serviced were not just numbers to us. They were not just money to us. They were part of our family. And we realized that giving back was something that we needed to continue to do. And so for me, A Hand Up to Success came about through the word success. Success Kids was the name of the business that my daughter started. Success was something that all people strive for. And one of the things I realized that most people don't want a handout. Many people are simply looking for a hand up. And so A Hand Up to Success was birthed through the word success.
So you were in Ohio at the time, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay. And now you're here in Jacksonville,
Yes.
Florida. Did you have the nonprofit up there and now you have it down here as well?
The nonprofit started in Ohio. We are looking and we're doing the paperwork as we speak to transition Jacksonville, Florida as a second entity of A Hand Up to Success, to be able to continue solely to support moms who are transitioning and learning how to live a new normal after the loss of a loved one.
Okay. Now, I understand with your organization, you also have a subset specifically about moms.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
The peer group is called Mothers in Healing. Mothers in Healing is, again, a support group that literally started in my kitchen because of mothers who felt like I had a very positive outlook to have went through what I've went through in not just losing children, but having 2 children murdered. And so Mothers in Healing Support Group actually meets once a month, every 3rd Saturday of the month. We meet right now via Zoom because of the pandemic, but we meet pretty much to be there to support each other through whatever chapter we're in of grief or even healing. Through that 2-hour meeting, we also do an hour of group therapy with a licensed therapist who comes in and meets with the group to give us tools that will help us when we are having a moment or just trying to figure out life. Through that, we also have a social media page where we support each other. We'll be introducing a newsletter that will go out to those as well. And we do a once-a-year event where we actually honor the lives and legacies of children who have lost their lives to gun violence as well.
You are just an incredibly strong woman, and I want to thank you so much for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks.
Oh my gosh. I just want to acknowledge for a moment that there are some tragedies that are just too hard to bear. And I can't even imagine what Crystal has gone through.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you say to somebody like Crystal? How do you show them compassion and love?
I just think to be there to listen. And
Yeah.
what I really love about her is the way that she's overcoming her grief and her loss is by helping other people.
Unbelievable.
Here
she's
she's
an unbelievably strong,
Right.
and she's got so much love in her heart.
Yeah.
Wow, what a fascinating woman. What a fascinating story. We're going to be back right after this, and we're going to unpack some of the lessons in that story.
This is the most rewarding job. I tell people, anybody knows about me in my past, I was a social worker, and I loved the spirit of the job. I loved the mission, but I felt like I couldn't do as much for them as I wanted to do. You meet your client where they are. You know, you meet them where they are, not where you want them to be, not where you want them to get it together and come into your lovely office and act appropriately. You know, sometimes I have to go to your house so you can be real, so you can show me, so you can break down. I don't mind doing that. That's part of the process. But the more I can do that, the more you do feel better. And like you can be somebody who can go into any office at any time and maintain your composure because you were able to be as vulnerable as you needed to be with somebody that you needed to trust to get you through this. And once I do that and I get them on the other side of it, it finally occurs to them, and it's like a light bulb goes off. It finally occurs to them that Dana didn't do this. I did this. I got myself here.
Welcome back to Come Back Stronger, where we are all about comeback stories, and we just had the opportunity to listen to 2 comeback stories and to see some tragedies that have turned into some positive stories in some sense. You can never, a tragedy like Crystal suffered, and Karl suffered, you know, it never goes away.
No.
But there's always an opportunity for lessons, and there's always an opportunity for growth. What were your takeaways from Karl's story or from Crystal's story?
I think my biggest thing with Crystal was that, I mean, as a mom and, you know, you're a father, I can't ever imagine losing a child. And I can't ever imagine losing a child to murder. And can't ever imagine that murder being part of domestic violence from a former family member of mine. You know, especially since her daughter was so successful in her own right. But what's so impressive and what's so, again, inspirational to me is that she's using that tragedy to help others. You know, she started the foundation for mothers who are grieving due to gun violence. You know, losing somebody to gun violence. She started the Hand Up in Success, and what I love about that is that she's not giving a hand out, she's just giving a hand up, because everybody needs a hand up. Everybody needs a support system, and that's how she's overcoming her loss, and I just think it's such a beautiful thing that she's turning the lives of her lost children into a way to help other people.
To help other people. Right. That is one of the critical elements to a great comeback story, and that is this. You face a challenge, failure, disappointment, setback, injury, then you come back from it, and then having come back from that, you're able to help other people who are going through the same thing. And that is exactly what Crystal is doing. She is such an impressive person. So yeah, I got to tell you, so in your work, I know that we deal with a lot of wrongful death cases,
Yes.
for example.
Yes.
And so we have to help our clients that are going through this tragedy, sometimes parents that lost their children.
Yes.
And that can be one of the worst things. What do you tell a client when they first call you and they say, look, I lost my child. I think it's due to somebody else's carelessness. What do you say to them?
It's awful. I mean, that's one of the most awful moments of my day at work is when you talk to somebody who's lost a parent or a spouse or a child, you know, due to wrongful death. Some people have traumatic injuries, traumatic brain injuries, and that's awful to go through too. And basically, that's when you become a family member and you sit there and you listen.
Yeah.
And I cry. I cry all the time.
Yeah.
And you know, and I do that because I'm a human, not just because I'm trying to be their lawyer. But you have to be sympathetic and empathetic, and you have to just live the moment with them, and you have to suffer with them. And I mean.
And at that point, it's too early to say. When they're first calling, it's too early to say, well, you know, they're probably is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
This is going to be an opportunity for. It's too early to talk about those kind of things. But at the end of the day, I've been fortunate enough to see so many people that have suffered through tragedies that have helped so many other people because of the wisdom and the strength they gained from the tragedy that they suffered.
Yeah.
And that to me is what it's all about. That's why you asked me earlier today, why are we doing this show?
Right. So many people ask that.
Yeah, why are we doing this show? And the answer is because my mission in life is to help people overcome challenges, come back stronger. And that's what I do as a personal injury lawyer. That's what I'm doing here. That's what we're doing here, trying to help the community to know that there is strength and wisdom after every challenge, after every failure and every setback.
Right, and to never give up hope. Hope is so powerful. And if you hang on to that hope, it gives you that internal strength that you need to drive forward and move forward, no matter if it's a huge tragedy or if it's a small tragedy.
100%.
You know, don't ever give that hope up.
That's what it's all about. So if you like this show, if you want more Come Back Stronger, you can join us on our Facebook page, Facing Brooks Facebook page. Also, I have a group called Facing Brooks Come Back Stronger Group. Please join us. We would love to have you. And otherwise, we will see you next week.
I like that people who don't have the money to pay for lawyers, they can come to a contingency fee lawyer, someone like us who only gets paid when we recover for them, and they can go toe-to-toe with giants.
You are actually just coming to us, not paying us anything, and if we're successful in getting you money, we get paid. And the more money we get for you, the more money we get. So our interests are totally aligned.
And it's a wonderful system because otherwise, how many people can afford to go hire a lawyer by the hour just so they can have their day in court?
Right.
That would be almost no one. That would mean justice is only available in America to rich people otherwise. But the contingency fee agreement allows everybody to go in on equal footing. It levels the playing field. But to me, it's saying we're equal. Okay, just because you have all those resources behind you doesn't mean I have to take whatever you give me. I've got a lawyer that I can afford who can stand up to you on the same playing field, equal ground in front of a judge, and I will get treated the same way those big corporations will be treated.